The Zareth Empire had ruled the stars for centuries, and no enemy had ever threatened their throne. Their fleets stretched across 15 star systems, their armies filled with elite soldiers, and their queen, Valara of the Crystal Crown, sat on her throne with confidence. Every alien race they met either joined them or fell before them. The Empire believed they were the strongest power in the galaxy, and most agreed. So when the Imperial Navy captured a single human shuttle near one of their mining planets, no one saw it as important. Humans were a small species living on the edge of the galaxy, known only for sending small trade ships and explorers. They did not have strong fleets, and they did not have powerful weapons. Many in the Empire even called them harmless. The prisoner brought before the Queen was named Commander Elias Rhodes. He walked into the throne room with 2 armored guards behind him. His hands were not chained, but the guards stayed close, ready to act in case he tried anything foolish. The throne room was large, made of gold-colored stone, with high walls carved with images of imperial victories. Members of the royal court stood on both sides, watching with interest and amusement. Queen Valara sat on her throne, dressed in the shining armor of her rank. Her presence was impressive, and many who stood before her felt small and afraid. She waited for the human to bow, but he did not. He stood tall, calm, and steady, looking directly at her. The court burst into quiet laughter. They expected a human to panic, beg, or show fear, but Elias did none of those things. The Queen studied him with narrowed eyes. He was tall for a human, his face calm and unreadable. He looked like an officer used to command, not a defeated prisoner. Her interest, already strong, increased. Most captured aliens could not look at her without trembling, but this man did not even blink. One of her advisors stepped forward. He was an elderly alien with silver skin and long robes. "Human," he said in a proud tone. "You stand in the presence of Queen Valara, ruler of the Zareth Empire and guardian of the stars. Show respect and kneel." Elias turned his eyes toward the advisor. "I show respect by standing as myself," he said calmly, "not by kneeling as a prisoner." A murmur of anger ran through the court. The Queen raised a hand, signaling silence. Her gaze did not leave the human. "You refuse to kneel?" she asked. "I refuse to act defeated," he answered. Many in the court expected the Queen to punish him immediately. Some whispered suggestions of execution, torture, or mind-breaking. But Valara did none of these. Instead, she became more curious. "What is your name?" "Commander Elias Rhodes, United Human Confederation Navy." "So you are a soldier," she said. "Yes," he replied. "But I came here as an explorer." One of the guards scoffed. "Explorers do not approach restricted space with military shuttles." Elias did not break eye contact with the Queen. "I was on a diplomatic mission." More laughter came from the court. Diplomacy was not something the Empire feared. They ruled through strength, not negotiation. To them, the idea of a human prisoner claiming a diplomatic mission was almost a joke. The Queen leaned forward slightly. "Then speak. What diplomatic message did you come to bring?" Elias took a slow breath. "Humanity wishes peaceful contact and future cooperation with the Zareth Empire. Trade, science exchange, cultural relations, and perhaps, later, shared defense agreements." The room fell silent for a moment before several nobles broke into loud laughter. One even wiped tears from his eyes. "The tiny human confederation wants to cooperate with the greatest power in the galaxy?" But Valara was not laughing. She studied Elias with growing surprise. His body language was strong, confident, and filled with determination. He did not speak like a man whose life was in danger. He spoke like someone with a choice. The Queen spoke again. "You are very bold, For someone standing in my throne room, surrounded by those who could kill you, with one word, Elias responded quietly. Boldness is something humans learn early. Another advisor, this one wearing the blue robes of the Empire's intelligence ministry, stepped forward. My queen, this human should not be taken seriously. His fleet is small, and their technology is outdated. Their species has no psionics and no advanced weapons. There is nothing he can offer that we need. Anhi. Elias turned his head slightly and spoke before the queen could respond. If that were true, I would not be standing here, and you would not be listening. Many in the hall gasped. It was the first time a prisoner had ever spoken over an imperial advisor. Guards stepped closer, ready to strike, but Velara lifted her hand again. Let him speak, she commanded. The guards stopped. Elias continued. I was captured easily because I did not resist. If I had used the weapons my ship carried, this would not be a diplomatic meeting, and the Empire would have lost ships before capturing me. That statement caused more shock. The intelligence minister stepped forward angrily. Human, are you threatening the throne? No, Elias replied. I am stating facts. You see humans as weak, but you do not understand us. Not yet. Queen Velara stood from her throne. Her presence filled the room like a wave of force. When she spoke, her voice carried a sense of command that made everyone fall silent. If humans are stronger than we believe, she said slowly, then prove it. Elias looked up at her. How? Velara extended one hand, and a soft glow filled the chamber. I will test your mind. A few nobles whispered among themselves. The queen's mental tests were powerful. Even strong alien warriors usually collapsed under her psychic pressure. The human stood still as she stepped closer, her eyes glowing with psychic energy. When her power entered his mind, she expected him to fall like all the others. But instead, she felt something strange, something solid, something resisting her. She pushed harder. Elias did not fall. The hall watched in silence as the queen tried again. Her power expanded, pressing against the human's thoughts. His heartbeat remained steady. His mind did not break. At last, Queen Velara withdrew. She looked at him with new eyes. The hall waited, expecting her to punish him for resisting her mental abilities. But she did something else. She smiled. For the first time in many years, the queen had found something unexpected. A species she had dismissed, a human she expected to be weak, had withstood her mental power. Her court looked confused, but she understood immediately. Humanity was not what the Empire believed, and she would learn the truth. Commander Elias Rhodes was taken from the throne room and placed in a private chamber inside the palace. It was not a prison cell. It looked more like a guest room, with a bed, a table, and a large window that showed the shining capital city of the Zareth Empire. The guards outside the door were armed, but they treated him with respect. Even they could sense that this human was not ordinary. Queen Velara returned to her private council chamber with several of her top advisors. They stood around a round crystal table that showed floating holograms of different star systems and military reports. The queen remained silent for several moments, studying the map before her. Finally, one of her generals spoke. My queen, this human disrespected you. He should be executed for such behavior. A second advisor added, Yes, Your Majesty. Showing mercy will make the Empire look weak. But Velara did not react immediately. Instead, she touched the table and brought up a hologram of Elias Rhodes, along with the small human confederation's territory at the edge of the galaxy. You all saw it, she said quietly. The room fell silent. Every person present understood what that meant. The Queen's psychic power was one of the strongest in the Empire. Many powerful warriors had fallen under it without lasting a second. But the human had not broken. Some advisors shifted nervously. Others frowned, refusing to believe it was anything more than luck or chance. The intelligence minister, old and wise, folded his hands behind his back. Perhaps he has some kind of mental shielding technology? No, the queen replied. I felt his mind directly. He resisted, through strength of will. This caused a stir. If true, then humans were not as the Empire believed. She turned away from the hologram and looked at her council. We have been ruling for centuries without facing a true challenge. Maybe we have grown comfortable. It is time to understand what humanity is. Meanwhile, Elias sat in his chamber, waiting. He was not frightened. He had expected that once his resistance was shown, the queen would be curious rather than angry. Humans had a long history of surviving through calm thinking and courage, and he was trained to stay steady in situations like this. After an hour, the door opened, and a guard entered. Commander Rhodes, the Queen wishes to speak with you again. Elias nodded and followed the guard down the long crystal hallway. The palace was beautiful in design, with walls covered in carvings showing the history of the empire. Many of the carvings showed battles, victories, and conquests. Elias studied them silently. It was a visual reminder of how powerful and proud this civilization was. He was led into a smaller, private meeting room. Instead of a throne, there was a long oval table and several chairs. Queen Velara stood at the far end, her expression calm but curious. She gestured toward a chair. Sit, Commander. Elias took a seat. 2 guards stood behind him, but they did not threaten him. Velara spoke first. You said humanity wants diplomacy. Why now? Why enter my space instead of sending a normal diplomatic request? Elias answered honestly. Because normal messages do not always reach powerful empires. Sometimes a personal meeting has more effect. The queen smiled slightly. Or you believed the empire was arrogant and would ignore smaller voices. Elias did not deny it. Many great powers in history, including human ones, have made that mistake. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You speak as if humans have seen great empires fall. Elias looked at her steadily. We have. She leaned back slightly, interested. Tell me about your people. You have something unusual, something not many species have. Strength of spirit. Elias took a moment to think before answering. Humans grew strong because our homeworld is dangerous. We had storms, predators, diseases, shortages, earthquakes, and wars. Everything tried to kill us, so we adapted. We learned to grow stronger, smarter, and more determined with every generation. The queen listened without speaking. Elias continued. By the time we reached space, we had already faced challenges many alien species never experienced. Many civilizations in the galaxy grew on gentle worlds, where survival was simple. But humanity learned to fight, innovate, and never give up. One of the advisors, standing behind the queen, scoffed. You, humans, talk as if hardship makes you superior. Elias shook his head. Not superior. Just determined. When humans face danger, they do not surrender easily. That is why your psychic attack did not break me. The queen nodded slowly. His explanation fit what she had sensed. She then asked, if humanity is so driven, why is your star fleet small? Why is your territory limited? Quote, Elias answered, without shame, because we have been united for only a short time. Humans spent many years fighting among themselves before realizing that we needed unity. But now that we are united, we are growing fast. The queen walked around the table, her steps smooth and controlled. You realize, Commander, that your words sound like the beginning of a future threat. Elias did not flinch. Not a threat. A warning. If the Empire continues to treat humanity as weak, someday you may face a surprise. Velara paused at his side. He shook his head. No. Through honesty. After. She walked back to her chair and sat down. Very well, she said. I will give you a chance to prove your words. Elias remained silent, waiting. The Queen tapped the table, and a hologram of a small ship appeared, his hidden vessel, still outside the Empire's borders. You said your ship has technology the Empire has not seen. I want to see it. Elias nodded. That can be arranged. The room fell silent again as every advisor processed what was happening. This was no longer a prisoner interrogation. This was the beginning of a political negotiation. The intelligence minister spoke carefully. Your Majesty, allowing his ship to operate near Imperial space is dangerous. The Queen replied, We are the Empire. If we fear a single ship, then we do not deserve this throne. The minister had no answer. Velara looked back at Elias. Tomorrow, we will test your claims. Your ship will demonstrate its capability in a controlled environment. If you are lying, you will be executed. If you are telling the truth, I will consider diplomatic discussions. Elias accepted the terms with a slow nod. Agreed. The Queen rose, signaling that the meeting was over. But before Elias could leave, she spoke again, softer this time. One more thing, Commander. When I touched your mind, I sensed something else. Not only strength, but something deeper. Something wild. Something unpredictable. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Humans have a saying. Pressure makes diamonds. She raised an eyebrow, and the galaxy will see whether humanity is diamond or only rough stone. Elias met her gaze. We intend to prove our worth. The guards led him out of the chamber, but Queen Velara remained standing, lost in thought. For the first time in many years, she felt a spark of challenge and curiosity. Humanity was small, but not weak. Their limits were unknown, and that made them far more interesting than any other species she had met. As she looked at the holographic map again, one thought silently passed through her mind. Perhaps the galaxy was about to change, and the Zareth Empire was not as unchallenged as it believed. The next morning came quickly. The palace was already awake, filled with guards, advisors, and servants moving with purpose. Rumors had spread through the halls of the Queen's mysterious human guest. Some said he was a warrior stronger than any seen before. Others whispered that he was a spy with dangerous technology. But no matter the story, everyone agreed on one thing. Queen Velara was interested in this human, and that alone made him important. Commander Elias Rhodes was escorted from his room again. But this time the guards' attitude had changed. They no longer looked at him like a prisoner. They treated him with cautious respect. One of them, a young soldier with blue markings on his armor, spoke quietly as they walked. Are humans always like you? Elias smiled. Not always. Some are stronger. Some are weaker. But we try to improve ourselves. The guard nodded thoughtfully, as if he had never heard a prisoner speak that way before. They entered a grand briefing chamber where the Queen and her advisors were already waiting. The room had a large, wall-sized holographic display showing star systems, fleet deployments, and military diagrams. Queen Velara stood in front of it, her hands clasped behind her back. Elias bowed slightly, not in fear, but in diplomacy. The Queen noticed the gesture. Commander, she began, today we see if your words carry truth. Elias nodded. I am ready. She touched a control panel, and the wall display shifted to show Elias's ship small, old-looking, and unremarkable at first glance. Several nobles in the room chuckled quietly. One advisor leaned toward the Queen. Majesty, that vessel looks outdated. Even our civilian science ships are more advanced. Elias heard him but did not react. Instead, he said calmly, What you see is not always what you get. The Queen turned her eyes to him again. Before we test your ship, I want to continue our discussion from yesterday. You spoke about humans surviving a harsh world. I want details. I want to understand your people. Elias took a slow breath. He had expected this. If the Empire was to respect humanity, they needed to know the truth. He began. Humans did not grow on a comfortable planet. Our world has deserts, frozen regions, deadly storms, disease, earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, and many animals that hunt anything they see. Some advisors looked surprised. In many parts of the galaxy, planets were calm and peaceful. Evolution happened slowly and without constant danger. To imagine a world where everything threatened life every day was difficult for them. Elias continued. We were not the strongest creatures on our world. We did not have claws or thick hides or armor. What we had was intelligence, curiosity, and the ability to adapt. Humans learned to survive by thinking faster, solving problems, and working together. Valera listened carefully, her face unreadable. Many intelligent species across the galaxy evolved on gentle worlds, Elias said. They developed slowly because they did not need to change quickly. But humans had no choice. If we did not adapt, we died. About 9. About 9. He paused, letting the words sink in. On our world, survival shaped our evolution. Every generation that came after learned from the hardships that came before. The Queen spoke quietly. So your strength comes from struggle. Elias nodded. Yes. Humans do not fear challenges. We grow from them. A military advisor crossed his arms. Even if that is true, your technology is still limited compared to ours. Your territory is small. Onentomsta sits. Onentom/Weld. Elias met his gaze calmly. Because we wasted many years fighting each other before uniting. But that also taught us lessons no peaceful species learns. Valera raised an eyebrow. What lessons? Elias's voice remained steady. Conflict taught us how dangerous we can become. It taught us the importance of self-control, diplomacy, and preparation. By the time we joined the stars, we already understood war deeply, too deeply. Some in the room shifted uncomfortably. It was not easy to hear a small species speak with such mature self-awareness. Elias continued. But, once we united, our progress accelerated. Humans adapt quickly. We learn from every defeat and every challenge. The Queen walked slowly around the room. You speak as if your people have limitless potential. Elias shook his head. No species is limitless. But humans never stop trying. That is our strength. One of the younger nobles, clearly skeptical, leaned forward. If humans are so strong-willed, why has your species not conquered other worlds already? Elias gave a small smile. Because humanity learned something important. Conquering alone brings isolation. Cooperation brings progress. We want allies, not subjects. Valera stopped walking. Many species say that, and then their fleets arrive anyway. Elias's reply was firm. Humans make mistakes. We have done terrible things in our history, but we learn. We adapt. That is why I am here not to demand, but to speak. The Queen stared at him for a moment, trying to understand the strange balance in his words. Humble, yet confident. Peaceful, yet prepared for battle. She finally asked the question that had been in her mind since the first meeting. Yesterday, you resisted my psychic probe. How does a species with no psionic tradition do that? Driven 1. Elias took a breath. Many humans do not realize they have strong mental discipline until they need it. Some develop it through war. Some through hardship. Some through life experience. The Queen considered his answer. So your mind grew strong because your world forced it to. Yes. Elias said, humans grow strong when pushed. She looked at her advisors. This is what I sensed, a mind shaped by constant survival. Mine, 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 mine. Elias continued. Humans are not naturally powerful. We become powerful through pressure. When life tries to break us, we refuse. Several advisors exchanged uncertain glances. They had never heard of a species like this. Most civilizations in the galaxy gained strength from their planet's abundant resources or long-lasting peace. They did not gain strength from suffering. The Queen looked thoughtful. Your explanation is interesting, Commander. But words are still just words. Elias nodded. And that is why today, I will show you. The Queen activated the hologram again. The display now showed a planned demonstration. Imperial warships forming a circle around a region of space. Elias's ship would enter the center and attempt to prove its capabilities. An older general looked suspicious. We have scanned your vessel. Its weapon systems are outdated. Its engines are years behind our technology. Elias remained calm. Our ship was created differently, not to outpower others, but to think faster. The intelligence minister frowned. Explain. Elias said. Human engineers realized something important. We do not need the biggest ships or the strongest guns. We need systems that learn during battle. We developed adaptive AI that studies enemy tactics in real time and changes strategy instantly. The room went silent again. That concept was unusual for the Empire. Their ships were powerful, but predictable. They followed pre-designed tactics, refined over centuries. The Queen understood immediately. Your ship evolves during combat. Yes, Elias confirmed. Every second it is alive, it becomes stronger. A young advisor whispered, shocked. A ship that improves itself? Without instructions? Elias nodded. Within safe limits. But the principle is simple. Humans innovate. We learn fast. Our machines reflect that. Velara looked at him with new respect. Then we will see if your ship's mind can challenge the Empire's fleet. Elias stood tall. We are ready. The Queen dismissed the advisors and stared at the galactic map once more as Elias left the room. She felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. For centuries, the Empire had faced predictable enemies, species who either surrendered or fought with brute force. But humans were different. They were unpredictable, driven by struggle rather than comfort, and capable of growth at a speed that was almost frightening. She spoke quietly to herself. A species that grows under pressure. She knew what that meant. If the Empire pushed them too hard, they might not break. They might become something truly dangerous and truly extraordinary. And for the first time in her long reign, Queen Velara realized the galaxy might soon face a new kind of power. Not born of wealth, tradition, or conquest, but of relentless human will. The next day, the capital of the Zareth Empire was filled with excitement. News had spread across the palace and even into the city streets. The Queen herself was going to witness a demonstration by a single human ship. People could hardly believe it. Some thought the Queen had lost her sense of caution. Others believed that this was simply entertainment, something to laugh about when the human failed. Only a few, including Queen Velara, felt a strange curiosity about what humanity might show. Commander Elias Rhodes stood aboard a small Imperial transport shuttle, watching stars move by the window as it carried him toward the testing zone. His hands were behind his back, and his face was calm. He was not nervous. Humanity had always performed best when eyes were watching, when doubts were strong, and when pressure was highest. Two guards sat across from him. One finally spoke. You are calm for someone facing an entire Imperial fleet. Elias smiled faintly. Calm thinking leads to good decisions. Fear, clouds, judgment. The guard shook his head. Humans are strange. The shuttle passed through a shimmering energy ring and appeared in open star space. Ahead, Dozens of Imperial ships hovered in formation, shining brightly with thick armor and powerful engines. Each vessel was larger than the human ship. Some were capital-class warships capable of destroying small moons. The sight would have made many alien commanders tremble. But Elias only watched quietly. The Imperial officer commanding the exercise spoke over the intercom. "Commander Rhodes, your vessel may call in any time. We will begin when your ship arrives. Enter purse." Elias nodded and tapped a device on his wrist. "Elysian. This is Commander Rhodes. Begin approach and initiate demonstration protocol." A calm female voice answered. "Confirmed. Approaching. Approaching. Approaching." A moment later, a small silver-gray ship appeared on sensors. It was old-looking, dented from past battles, with marks of repairs. The Imperial captains watching the screens laughed openly. "That is the human ship? It looks like a freighter that survived an accident. This will be over quickly." But Queen Velara, seated in her command throne aboard a royal flagship, did not laugh. She leaned forward and studied the vessel with thoughtful eyes. Elias spoke again. "The Elysian is not impressive in appearance. Its strength is inside." The commanding officer signaled the test to begin. "Imperial ships, move in. Disable the human vessel. No lethal fire." The fleet formed a circle around the Elysian, weapons powered but not yet fired. Elias watched silently as the first beams of disabling energy flew toward his ship. Nothing special happened at first. The Elysian was hit once, then twice. Shields rippled weakly. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, officers grinned. It looked like the small ship could not handle the pressure. Then everything changed. The computer controlling the human ship activated. It began to learn. Not after the battle, during it. Data streamed through its systems, faster than most Imperial AI could understand. It analyzed the angle of every incoming shot, the timing between weapons, the frequencies used by the shields, the formation pattern of the ships surrounding it. And then it adapted. Elias's ship changed its shield harmonic frequency in less than a second. The next Imperial energy beam struck. But instead of destabilizing the shield, it was absorbed and redirected away as harmless light. A murmur moved across the Imperial fleet. Officers stared at monitors. How did the shield change so fast? No command signals detected. It changed automatically. Queen Velara's expression sharpened. She understood what she was seeing. It was not brute force. It was learning. Rapid learning. The Imperial ships adjusted tactics. They switched weapons, firing plasma torpedoes instead. The human ship's engines flared, slipping sideways with unusual agility. It scanned the new attack and adjusted again. Torpedoes that should have hit instead passed harmlessly by, missing their target by meters. The Queen watched like someone seeing a new kind of battle for the first time. "It is not reacting with preset instructions," she said quietly. "It is rewriting its strategy every second." The intelligence minister swallowed hard. That should not be possible. Not at that speed. The commanding flagship ordered the fleet to change formation. The ships tightened their circle and moved to block every escape route. The human ship could not outrun them. It could not overpower them. But it did something different. It turned their strength against them. The Elysian targeted the engines of one ship, just one. A precision pulse of energy hit the vessel in the exact moment its shields were weakest. Its engines powered down instantly. The ship drifted, not destroyed, but harmless. Before the fleet could react, the Elysian jumped toward a second ship. Another non-lethal shot. Another ship disabled. One by one, Imperial ships went dark, left floating in space with systems intact, but no power to fight. The entire fleet was collapsing not through force, but through intelligence. Queen Velara stood slowly. She could hardly believe it. "Not one kill. Not one life lost," she whispered. And yet the battle is his. Inside the shuttle, Elias watched calmly. Humans learned long ago that cleverness wins wars more than power. The Elysian analyzes the battlefield hundreds of times per second. It is always improving. One of the guards stared at him in disbelief. So the longer the fight lasts, the stronger the ship becomes, Elias finished. Within minutes, the once confident Imperial formation had been transformed into a silent field of deactivated vessels. Only the royal flagship remained fully functional. The Elysian hovered in front of it, weapons powered but idle. Elias opened a channel to the Queen. "Your Majesty, the demonstration is complete." Silence held for several seconds. Then the Queen answered. Her voice was calm, but there was new weight in her words. "You defeated a full squadron without destroying a single ship." Elias replied, "Humans prefer victory without death when possible." The Queen leaned back slowly. "Your technology is self-evolving. That is, dangerous." "Yes," Elias agreed. "But only if pointed at the wrong purpose." On the flagship bridge, the military commanders stared at their screens in shock. For generations, the Empire had been the strongest. Their fleets had never been defeated by a smaller force. And now, a single human ship had achieved the impossible. The Queen stood and raised her voice to the officers around her. "Learn this lesson. Power does not only come from size, it comes from innovation." One of the older generals spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, if this ship had been hostile, we would have lost most of the fleet," the Queen finished for him. She understood the truth now. Humanity was not a weak species. They had grown under pressure so intense that their technology, their thinking, and their determination had adapted into something new, something dangerous, something impressive. Elias spoke again through the channel. The demonstration was not to frighten. It was to show that humans can contribute something different to the galaxy. The Queen looked out at the silent fleet and felt something she had not felt in years: challenge. In a universe where most species advance slowly and predictably, humans were different. They were unpredictable. They were built by hardship, shaped by evolution, and capable of learning faster than empires could prepare for. After a long pause, Queen Velara finally spoke. "Commander Rhodes, return to the palace. We have much to discuss." Her generals looked uneasy. They saw only danger. But the Queen saw something else: opportunity. Perhaps humanity was not a threat to be crushed. Perhaps they were a power worth standing beside. As the Elysian turned and left the battlefield, the Queen whispered under her breath, too quiet for anyone else to hear. "Humans are not just survivors. They are challengers." For the first time in her reign, she felt excitement instead of certainty. And she knew the galaxy was about to change forever. Queen Velara sat on her throne, but for the first time in her long rule, the air in the Grand Hall felt different. There was no laughter from the nobles, no loud debate, no arrogant confidence that the Zareth Empire would dominate the galaxy without effort. The memory of the battle still lived in the minds of everyone present. One small human ship had faced a squadron of Imperial warships and won without destroying a single vessel. Not through overwhelming firepower, not through cheating or trickery, but through bold thinking, fast adaptation, and skills none of them understood. Commander Elias Rhodes stood in the center of the hall again, unchained this time. There were guards near him, but they watched him with respect instead of amusement. Many eyes followed him with a mixture of disbelief and quiet fear. The human had changed something inside the Empire, and everyone felt it. However, Elias himself did not stand proud or smug. He stood calm and serious, knowing the next words spoken in this room would shape the future for both humanity and the Empire. The Queen studied him silently, her eyes sharp and deep. She had known many warriors, many leaders, and many conquerors, but she had never seen someone like this: human, confident without arrogance, brave without cruelty, and powerful without needing to boast. She gestured for him to speak. "You gave us proof. Now tell me what your people truly seek." Elias took a slow breath before answering. His voice carried across the hall with steady force. He explained that humanity was not a perfect civilization. They struggled, argued, fought among themselves, and not every government acted wisely. But humanity shared one strong belief: nothing in the universe was impossible. That belief, he said, had pushed them beyond their home world and into the stars. The nobles murmured among themselves. Some were impressed. Others were doubtful. The human was from a smaller civilization. So how could they speak of goals bigger than the empire? Elias continued, explaining that humans did not always win through strength. They won because they refused to stop trying. Their species was made through hardship, storms, disasters, predators, disease, wars, and problems that forced them to evolve faster than any species should. Humans learned something important over thousands of years. Progress comes from the will to stand up, even after falling. Queen Velara listened carefully. She had lived for centuries. She believed she understood the universe, its patterns, and its limits. But now she was discovering that humans saw the universe differently. Where her empire saw stability, humans saw opportunities. Where her empire saw tradition, humans saw room to improve. Where her empire believed in superiority, humans believed in survival and growth. She leaned back slightly. "You speak boldly, and yet you come here alone." Elias smiled lightly. "Because one voice can be enough to change the future if people are willing to listen." His expression turned serious again. "Resibel, the Tame Four, including Intaporting. Humanity does not wish to be another enemy in your long list of conquered civilizations, but neither will we surrender or bow. If the Empire pushes us, we will push back." He then paused. "But it does not have to be that way." "No." That final sentence quieted the hall again. The Queen asked him what humanity offered in exchange for peace. Elias explained that his people brought something different: ideas. Not larger fleets or endless supplies, but new ways of thinking, new ways of fighting, new ways of surviving. He pointed out that the Empire was strong, but it had stopped learning. It controlled many worlds, but followed traditions that had not changed in centuries. Its fleets were large, but their strategies never evolved. Humanity, even with fewer ships, kept improving. During every battle, every mission, every failure, humans changed, improved, and adapted. A few nobles scoffed. One stood and accused Elias of trying to sound superior. Elias did not react with anger. He simply answered calmly that humans never claimed to be better. They only claimed to keep moving forward. That, he explained, was what made them dangerous to underestimate. Queen Velara asked a final question. "What do humans want from us, truly?" Elias answered that humans wanted an alliance not of loyalty, but of cooperation. The Empire had power, scale, technology, and history. Humanity had innovation, creativity, and the drive to push boundaries. Together, they could build something neither side could achieve alone. An empire of progress instead of fear. An expansion of territory, but also an expansion of knowledge and potential. Silence returned once more. Every noble waited, nervous and unsure. No one in the Empire's long history had ever spoken to their queen this way. No alien had ever stood in the grand hall and left alive without kneeling. But this human had done both. And now he stood waiting for the queen's decision, not as a slave or as a politician, but as someone who believed his words mattered. Velara finally stood, her royal robes flowing behind her like a dark halo. Her voice echoed through the chamber with royal authority. She admitted that the Empire had grown proud and unmoving. She admitted that humanity's display showed that strength alone was not enough to secure the future, and she admitted not with shame, but with respect that she had been wrong to assume humans were weak. Elias did not gloat. He simply bowed his head slightly, acknowledging her honesty. The Queen declared that the Empire would not fight humanity. Instead, it would begin negotiations for the first alliance in its long rule. She added that Elias would be the official representative of his species until a formal diplomatic group arrived. The nobles looked shocked, but none dared challenge her. The Queen had seen something they had not. She saw that a new age had begun. As the hall dismissed, Velara approached Elias privately. She spoke softly, asking him one more question. "Would you have destroyed us if we had rejected your offer?" Mal. Elias answered with complete truth. Humanity would never strike first. But if forced to fight, they would not stop until they survived. The Queen nodded slowly. She understood now that the power she had witnessed was not just technology or military strength. It was the human spirit, something her empire had never faced. She turned to look out across her capital city. Towers of metal and crystal reflected the planetary sun. Ships flew across the sky like silver birds. For centuries, this had been the center of power in the galaxy. But now she knew the future was bigger than this throne, this empire, or even this world. Beside her stood a single human who had walked into her empire alone and changed it forever. The galaxy would never be the same again.